Backstage kicking off Cat House Live is Steve Brown from Trixter. How are you, bro?
I'm doing great, Jay. How are you?
It's always great to see you. And thanks again for setting up the interview with Phil Collin. It was amazing.
Of course.
You know, I know you're doing dual duty these days.
A little bit.
Stuff. Now, take us back, you know. Growing up in Jersey, is that right?
Yeah. Paramus, New Jersey.
Tell us about the early days of getting into playing music and, you know, what led you to want to play in bands yourself?
I started playing guitar in 1978 after being infected by Kiss and Van Halen. You know, the first Kiss record I ever got was Rock and Roll Over, and I saw it and I went, what is that? And I borrowed it from my sister-in-law's brother. I'll never forget it. And I brought it home, and I didn't even play it. I just couldn't stop looking at the visual of Rock and Roll Over. It's unbelievable. Yeah. I put it on, and I forget what the first song is, but it just blew me away. And 2 weeks later, I asked my mom to take me for guitar lessons. And about 6 months after that, I heard Van Halen 1 for the first time.
I Stole Your Love, or what was that first track?
No, on Rock and Roll Over, was it... Oh, I Want You.
I Want You.
I Want You. Yeah. Completely that, and then hearing Running with the Devil, Into Eruption, Into You Really Got Me. Right. That completely changed my life forever, and I never looked back.
Amazing stuff. So awesome.
Yeah, man.
So now, at what age did you start your own band?
Well, the first band we ever had was a version of Trixter. I started the band in 1982. I was 12 years old, and we were called Raid, R-A-D-E, you know, kind of like the bug spray, but only different. It's more like, it was kind of a take of the Rock Brigade.
Right.
Raid, or the Rock Brigade, you know, from Def Leppard. I was a huge fan. That was also one of the early records. I still have the original On Through the Night Def Leppard cassette. So that was it. And then about a year after we started Raid, Mark Scott joined the band. It was Pete Lauren and I started the band. Okay. And about a year later, Mark Scott joined the band, and we changed the name to Trixter. And off we went.
And tell us about the origin of the name. How did Trixter come up?
You know, it was just one of those things, you know, back in the day, you had to have kind of a cool name, and, you know, something ending in ER always worked really well. You put an X in there, because there was a band on Jet Records back in the late 70s called Trixter, but it was spelled C-K-S-T-E-R. And I always thought that was cool, because it was kind of like we were young and mischievous and, you know, kind of like little cats seeing what's around the corner, what kind of trouble we're going to get into. So it fit, you know, we were the little tricksters. And, you know, so I changed the spelling, came up with a cool logo, put the X in the middle, you know, make it a little more heavy metal, and it worked.
Yeah, what an amazing time, man, in the 80s.
Oh,
all
dude.
MTV exploding, and of course Pyromania and Judas Priest and Van Halen doing their thing.
It was everything, man.
Yeah.
A lot of bands here today, you know, Dokken, you know, we're huge Rat fans, Stephen Pearcy and the Rat Guys, Warren DeMartini's one. Oh yeah, Bon Jovi.
Did you ever see Skid Row before Sebastian joined the band?
Yeah, Trixter opened for them many times. Those guys, Snake and Rachel and Scotty, are really, really good friends of mine since I was 15 years old. John Bon Jovi actually introduced us, and we've been friends ever since. So yeah, we did shows with their original singer, Matt Fallon, and the first show Sebastian ever did with Skid Row in America was in a place called Studio One in North Newark, New Jersey, and we opened for him. It was the night that pretty much they got signed to Atlantic Records.
Sure. So what did you think when he joined the band? Was that like the missing ingredient?
Oh, totally. It was, when you saw it, I mean, I saw it for the first time, and I was like, this is a fucking no-brainer.
David Lee Roth?
Totally. It was all that. It was, you know, it was David Lee Roth, Rob Halford, and, you know, Bruce Dickinson. It was like everything, Vince, every kind of great hard rock, heavy metal singer melded into one. And, you know, Sebastian's a big guy, so he's 6'4" and very commanding. And
it was in the leather, man. He looks 7 foot
insane.
tall.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy, and great to see how they went on to such great success.
Sure. Now I know when you got signed, was it the first album that you made in LA, or was that the second one?
The first one. We did, yeah. The debut. We got signed in May of '89 and September of '89. That's it, man.
Palm trees and Sunset.
That's it. That's it. Totally. We lived on Fuller Ave and Hollywood Boulevard at those Oakwood apartments right by Rock and Ralph's, and it was a magical time. You know, I mean, it was the Sunset Strip, kind of almost at the tail end, but it was still the heyday of it. So we got to go to a lot of cool parties and meet a lot of cool people. I remember meeting
Seventh Veil and all that.
Oh yeah, all that, Bordello, you know, Cat House, all the great places. And Rainbow, we were at the Rainbow way too much. Still love that place.
Awesome. So now, what are your greatest memories of that era? because again, the band was kicking, the scene was happening, MTV embraced you. Looking back over that, I know this is a new chapter and everything's moving boldly forward, but you know, when you look back, what are your greatest memories?
I mean, all of it. I mean, the greatest memory I would have to say is when our record, being that we're here at Irvine Meadows Amphitheater, last time we played here, we did 2 sold-out nights in February of 1991 with the Scorpions. It was the day our record went gold. So what was really cool about it, John Bon Jovi was here, and we told him that we're not going to get our gold records till we play the Meadowlands Arena, which was our hometown arena. As great as it was here, you know, Michael Schenker was here, Phil Collin came and jammed with the Scorpions, Phil and Michael Schenker doing rock and roll. It was unbelievable. But to play, you know, our hometown arena in the Meadowlands, friends, family, we got our gold records on stage, and it was just, you know, it was a tremendous party. Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was about a month after we played here in Irvine, and it was just, you know, that was it. And every day, I mean, you know, I say it all the time, every dream we ever had came true 100 times over. And that's no lie. And we're so, and here we are 30 years later, we're still here, all original band from the first record, and kicking ass. So it really is it's a tremendous time for us.
You know, the music keeps you young, you look great. I know the new album is smoking, and you know, tell us about the relationship with Def Leppard. How did that develop? Was it your friendship with Phil, or what led you to be the #1, you know, pick for that?
Well, it started back on the Hysteria tour in 1987. It was the first time I met them and the Tesla guys when they first started. Def Leppard's manager at the time, this guy Peter Mensch, Q Prime, who still manages Metallica and, you know, Muse, huge guy. He was the guy who helped our managers get the ball rolling for us. So he brought us backstage. They were doing the Meadowlands Arena, 3 nights sold out there. Queensryche and Tesla were opening. No, it was Tesla the first time. And he brought me backstage, and Phil and I just hit it off as guitar players, talking about gear, talking about licks, talking about amps, effects. He's like me. We geek, you know, a lot of guitar players geek out on equipment. And, you know, and that's how we hit it off. And we remained friends since that day. And, you know, when his first son, Rory, when his wife was pregnant with his son, Rory, you know, he called me, oh, I'm going to be a dad. And he's become, you know, we're like brothers. You know, he's like my older brother. And like my father says, he's like a godfather to me, because to be successful, everyone needs somebody to kind of look down, and Phil's been a tremendous help.
Everybody had a mentor, and I'm sure you mentor others yourself.
Of course I do, and that's, you know, that's what you do. When you see people that have talent, you want to be able to help them and nurture them and get them to where, you know, where you are. And, you know, that's why for me, you know, I produce a lot of young bands in my studio. I love to do that, because I remember what it was like when I was a kid to meet somebody like Phil, Joe Elliott, Eddie Van Halen, these guys who were so great to me and so cool, and it really taught me a lot of lessons about how to treat people. And that, as you know, man, that's one of the biggest parts of, you know, being not so successful, but just being liked by people. And the Def Leppard thing, that happened over years, in the sense of that I became friends with everybody in the organization. Their tour manager, Malvin, I've known for, you know, 25 years. And when Vivian was diagnosed with cancer, back in 2013, you know, Malvin and Phil were like, we got the guy. We told Joe. Joe knew me, but and it was just, you know, it's a bittersweet situation. You know, Viv is, you know, he's doing great now, and but it was, you know, pretty incredible for me to be up there playing with those guys.
To be able to back up your heroes and make sure they didn't miss a beat and have to cancel a show. What was the first time you jammed with them?
Well, I didn't do any proper rehearsals with them. The only rehearsals that I did were Phil and I did before last year when I did Vegas. We did a corporate gig, and then we did the 4 casino shows. We did a little, just going through, you know, some vocal parts. And I went on the road with the guys last summer on the Kiss tour, and I was out for about 3 weeks with them and did a bunch of sound checks and stuff, but no real rehearsal. But Phil and the guys knew that I'd seen the show for the better part of 25 years. I know the role. You know, it's a different role than what I do, Steve, you know, being the guitar player in Trixter. But with Def Leppard, it's a different kind of, you know, mold. And the reason I got the gig was not because of the guitar playing, it was because of the vocals. Vivian, you know, one thing most people don't know about Def Leppard is they don't sample any of their vocals. Nothing's on tape. It's as live as it gets. and that was the reason that I was able to do that, because I have that kind of raspy, you know, that Mutt Lange type, you know, step inside, walk this way. And Phil and I have sang together. You know, we did the Mike Huckabee show a couple years ago on Fox, and that was the first time. And we both looked, when we got done with it, we both looked at each other and go, man, our voices sound really good together. So I think that kind of put the seed in Phil's head.
Sure, there's a million guitarists, but to be able to do the vocals and the guitars and be a friend of the band. Yeah. Because, you know, again, Def Leppard's a big show. I mean, what was it like to step out and feel that crowd the first time and just, you know, play those anthems that you just knew a million times in your head and just felt like you were, you know, supporting the team?
Well, it was a dream come true, and like I said, yes, it's bittersweet, but someone had to do it, and it was incredible, man. There were moments where I had to reel myself in, where I was kind of playing, and you know, I'm looking over, we're doing "Let It Go," or we're doing "Animal," and I'm seeing, you know, I see Sav right here, and I see Joe, and I see Phil, and I look back and see Rick, and I go, holy shit, I'm playing with fucking Def Leppard. You know, and then the Vegas show, and we did Photograph, where Phil and I come to the front of the stage and do that riff. It was just like, you know, man, if it all ended tomorrow, I'd be a happy guy.
Dream come true, man.
Yeah, totally.
Watching MTV and seeing Photograph for the first time, and you being in the picture.
Yeah.
Amazing stuff. Now, I know the new album is great sounding, and I know you're such a big part now of the recording process and all that. What does it mean to be like a self-contained unit now, to be able to write, record, and put the show on?
It's finally to a point where I have the band to sound the way I have always envisioned it. You know, back when we were doing not to take away from our great producer Bill Ray, who produced our first record, who taught us how to make records. We did the second record with James Jimbo Barton, Rush, Queensryche, these amazing people we worked with. Yeah. They taught me how to do this, and then I was able to take it to the next level, because when you have other people mixing your stuff, it never measured up to what I envisioned it to sound like. And finally, now that I have my own studio for the last 20 years, you know, it's been a constant working, and finally now we're getting to the point where we have the sound where I always envisioned Trixter sounding, you know, in the way we should, and you know, the audio thing. You know, I'm kind of liking myself to be like a mini Mutt Lange. Mutt Lange is one of my heroes, so, you know, that's where it's all about for me.
Yeah. Well, it's amazing to be able to kind of, again, we always talk about the tortoise and the hare, because, again, you've been able to utilize years of learning and being on stage and learning, like you say, from some of the great producers, and kind of be able to step into that role. You know, I think a lot of kids today in this new generation, they want to be the hare. They want it now. They want to be on the big stage, and they hadn't paid their dues, you know. Yeah. What do you tell the younger generation as far as being patient, really being a student of the game, and master your craft and wait for your turn?
That's exactly it. I think nowadays, more than ever, back when we started, there was no internet, there was no social media, there was no cell phones, no computers. So we had to do everything old school, like the way Def Leppard did it, like the way Van Halen did it, Bon Jovi, where you sit in a room and you write songs and you learn how to play. Nowadays, the great thing for up-and-coming musicians is the availability, that you can make a pro-sounding record in your living room. And believe me, you know, Phil and I, I'm sure he told you, doing some of the Delta Deep stuff, he records sitting at his kitchen table, just like I do. You know, and you get top quality, 24-bit album quality, you know, masters. And that really says something. So you have the tools, but with the tools, you still need to learn how to write a song and craft a song and be able to, you know, that was always my thing. I would always listen to records and, you know, I would go, well, how did they do this? Why did they use that arrangement? Why did they modulate after the guitar solo? And that was all those little things that really shaped me as a musician, engineer, producer. And the biggest lesson you learn nowadays is that you need to be a professional musician, full-time, getting paid. You have to get income streams from different places, because you're not going to get it from just playing music anymore. You know, PJ and I and Pete, we play in cover bands back east. Pete lives in Arizona, plays in a country cover band, Georgia Chrome. PJ and I play in a bunch of different bands, do solo acoustic gigs. I give guitar lessons, I give vocal lessons, I do music for film and TV, all that. And it's a beautiful thing, and all those little things.
What you love to do full time.
Exactly. It can get pretty hairy sometimes. I wake up in the morning and go, okay, okay, what band am I playing in today? Okay, well, what do I have to do? Okay, and then, but it's a necessary.
It beats to a construction and trying to find the energy to do
right,
music.
exactly. So you know, I'm blessed, and you know, that's, you know, some of those lessons are, you know, one of the biggest ones that I've learned is where, you know, you always have to have money coming in, you know, because you always got to pay your bills. You know,
it's a great thing.
And even when you have a hit record, Peter Mensch back in the day, I'll never forget. He told this to the Def Leppard guys, and he told it to us. He said, treat any money you make in the music business like it's the last money you're ever gonna make. You know, and that's why.
Spend it foolishly.
No, of course not. And you know, that's what I lived at. You know, we all lived at home with our parents and stuff until we got to the point where, you know, luckily I was able to buy a house. The guys, you know, and we were fortunate. And but it's a big lesson to learn, man, because as quick as you get that success, it can be over just as quick.
Sure. And we're here at Cat House Live. I mean, coming full circle, 30-some years later. You know, the club where GNR and so many of the great bands, you know, did their thing in Hollywood. What does it mean to be a part of this? You've got not only Extreme, but you've got the voice of Rat and Skid Row. You've got so many of these bands, the LA Guns and Black and Blue, Enough's Enough, and all that. What's it mean to be a part of this celebration of all that great music?
It's I gotta say, it's been well documented that Trixter's done way more cocaine than Aerosmith.
That's right. Words to live by. Chips enough. Chips enough. Yeah, we're honored to be here. You know, and like I said before, this is our first California show in over 20 years. Our first time being back at Irvine Meadows Amphitheater, back since February 1991. So we're, you know, like I said, we are blessed, and we're looking forward to rocking the house. Yeah. It's a beautiful day in Southern California. Let's rock and roll, baby.
Does it get any better than this? And of course, Def Leppard's done their thing here before. Phil lives right up the street. I mean, some hallowed halls here, definitely. Well, Steve, we can't thank you enough. It's going to be an awesome show today. We're going to spread the word on the new album, and please keep on rocking.
Jay, thank you so much to all the fans out there. Thank you for all the support. We love you. Check out the new Trixter record, Human Era, and we'll see you out on the road soon. Take it easy.